Well, to the world at large, welcome to the Omniverse. This is Brian Carlsen. Today I'm with Emilio Iodice, who is an author and accomplished diplomat and speaker. Emilio Iodice has spent over 3 decades as a senior executive in the public and private sectors, as an educator in the field of leadership, and as a university administrator. During those 30 years of experience, he was also a key official in Washington, working for several administrations. He was named by the President to the Senior Executive Service when he was 33 and considered among the youngest public servants to reach the highest levels of federal service. In the United States Diplomatic Corps, he was one of the most decorated officers in history and was awarded the Gold Medal for heroism, a gold medal for exemplary service, and a silver medal, and nominated for 2 bronze medals. Among his honors are being knighted by the King of Italy and receiving medals of honor from Spain and Italy. He speaks several languages and has traveled across the globe. He is the author of 3 books, the latest of which is going to be our topic in the Omniverse, and the title of that book is Future Shock 2.0, The Dragon Brief 2020. And I have to say I have just completed the book. I have been dabbling in it for some time, but it is crazy glue for the mind, and I had a very difficult time once I got on the roller coaster. And it brings up both disturbing and toward the end perhaps hopeful notes about where this entire globalized economy and where we as individuals are headed. So with that, let me yield the floor to you, Emilio, and say hello.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to talk about my book, which I'm very happy that I prepared, because I felt that it was time to give a wake-up call to the world, and I felt that each and every one of us has an obligation to do our best to make the world better, and that's part of my contribution here. And again, I want to thank you for giving me an opportunity to voice something about my book today.
Well, it's quite a unique layout. In fact, that's what makes it so compelling, is that what you're postulating. You start out by giving a whole series of vignettes, if you will, starting with the current age or just recent history, where you read about certain acts that politicians or government officials are taking, and corporations are undertaking together, and then you discuss how that plays out over time in a logical sense, and then you punctuate it with the a fictionalized account of how that impacts specific individuals. And it's something of a dark impact, for humanity and these people you speak of. And as I understand it, a lot of these stories are really just kind of taken from reality, and I guess the names are changed to protect the innocent.
That's correct, Brian. Future Shock 2.0 is really a work of fiction, but it's based on fact. And I emphasize it is fiction, it's a novel, but it's clear that once we analyze the facts as we've presented them, we see that we're moving toward a time where we can, in my view, lose control of the future. We don't know what it will look like, but we can imagine it, and that's what the book is about. So most of the work concerning global warming, as we described in the initial pages, our lack of leadership, again, as we described in the initial pages of the book, the weakness of our economic policies that are creating massive unemployment all around the world, and our growing social disparities have been presented to me, and I think to most of the public, in scientific, technical, financial, and intellectual journals and ways and books, but they lack a specific focus, a special focus, the most important focus, in my view, the impact on people. This book is about people, first and foremost. The stories, as you say, are fictional, but they're real. They're from everyday life. They project the human consequences right where life begins. It's in the family, in the village, the city, and in the workplace. So the book focuses on the human drama and the effects on humanity of the direction we're taking throughout the world. So the political, economic, social, and ecological consequences we know are obvious, and yet it's inevitable that all we describe in the book will happen unless we change our course. But we can change the course. With strong, courageous, and compassionate leadership, there is hope. And we don't have to wait for the problems to run their course. We can change the future. And as I say, at the end of the book, it's up to us, each and every one of us, from the bottom up, really have to make the difference. It's each and every one of us that have to take responsibility for the world and the direction that it's going in.
Well, you know, I believe in some of our earlier exchanges leading up to this interview, there was a Herman Melville kind of quality to what I was reading. Herman Melville being the author of Moby Dick, and Moby Dick being a fictionalized metaphor for, a corporate, goal that is getting warped by a lack of morality or care for individual needs. And there's that moment I recall in the novel where, in Moby Dick, where Starbuck, the first mate, stands there as sort of that stopgap measure where he levels a gun at that leadership, which is, I guess, the most extreme solution, which is not a solution. Violence doesn't get us anywhere. But the moment of near revolution, on that ship of state, if you will. I see a lot of parallels between it. You're kind of the Melville of the age, and you're giving a cautionary tale that this is dark now. I was touched by a number of factors. At the start, we have the president and essential personnel taking shelter because America is swept up in this 2020 scenario. And I'm struck, and again, since your location is in Italy and you're surrounded and steeped in that history, it's that moment where the American president at the beginning almost seems to feel like one of the last Caesars, and the Dragon Brief, as the book is subtitled, comes out as sort of the last testament. It's a poignant moment. I wonder if you could speak to that.
Yes, it is a special moment where, as the story really begins, the fictional part of the story, where the president has assembled her National Security Council in the bowels of the White House, many stories below the Oval Office, and basically she's giving them this book called The Dragon Brief 2020. Which is happening on that day in 2020, that describes why there's a revolution going on, not only in the United States, but in so many parts of the world, including China, and why we have an economic, social, and political collapse before she leaves for a safe haven. And that's where the story really begins. So the parallels with Rome, you could imagine the last Roman emperor, are there. So I'm often touched by the way we use Rome as an example of where a people who lost their ability to control their destiny disappeared as a society. They just melted away, only to remain part of our own historical biography. This could happen to any civilization that neglects the needs of its people and those of the rest of the world that depend on them as a model. America, as far as I'm concerned, has been the paradigm for many nations for freedom and opportunity and the liberty to chart our own future individually and collectively. We're losing that, Brian. We're losing that image as the benchmark for what a person can be and should be in this world. I strongly believe in American democracy and freedom and the American pursuit of social justice as a solution to our problems. The challenges that our democracy faces in the United States and other countries that have a democracy similar to ours is not only a 21st century democracy, it's one that we've dealt with for centuries. It's preserving liberty while pursuing economic and social equity for all members of society. And I feel strongly that it goes back to leadership. We need to create a better system in the United States in particular and elsewhere to encourage extraordinary people to take on roles of responsibility in society without risking their lives and sacred fortunes. Why are we not attracting the best and the brightest to lead us forward in the political arena? And we have to analyze this and change it. And, and finally, the issue of the presidency. Today, we have a great deal of controversy over the power of presidential leadership. Some call it presidential imperialism in the United States. The concentration of power at very high levels happens when an institution like the U.S. Congress fails to exercise leadership and fails to fulfill its responsibility. We've seen this go on for too long.
We have lost our loyal opposition, have we not?
We could say that, and I won't comment on that in detail. This is something that we read about and hear about every day. But what it does, it results in public frustration.